Hey. You caught me napping there, huh? No, you didn't. Listen, welcome to the Shake Up with Dr. Kit. This is your Monday night, 6 p.m. special, running just a little bit late, but hey, listen, these things happen sometimes, okay? But we're here now, so we're going to just get moving here. Listen, you know how the Shake Up works. We're always shaking things up. You make your favorite juice, all the good stuff set at the bottom. Shake it up. Relationships are like that. Sometimes you just take your relationship for granted, and all the good stuff in your relationship just settles at the bottom, and you're wondering why your relationship is not working like it should. Well, now you know. That's why we have the shake up. The shake up don't change things. It just gives you a different perspective, different meaning, different understanding, different way to view not just what's going on, but also to view yourself. All right. And so that's what I'm going to say. The shake up. We thank you for being on here. Listen, if I'll just say this right up here. Listen, if you want to be a part of this show, just go to drkidspeaks@gmail.com and my team will get you on there lickety split in a moment. So you can get on there. And listen, this is not some interrogation. You're not putting your dirty laundry out there. This is where you get an opportunity to just talk about what's on your mind, important things. Then you be a mouthpiece for other people. Okay, so that's what this is. So the shake up, if you would like to be on here or to be considered to be on here for future shows, just go to drkidspeaks@gmail.com. My team will work with you. You can be on camera or you can be off camera. We don't want to scare nobody. We just want to make sure that you get the information out there, and we'll do a wonderful job with you, okay? So we'd like you to like, follow, share, and subscribe. Like, follow, share, and subscribe. That's like, follow, share, subscribe. Like, follow, share, subscribe. It's just that easy, okay? And when you do that, we can increase the number of viewers. The viewership will go up. Not only that, it's not just for viewership, but it's the content. The content is what's important. And you'll hear it from live people just like yourself. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go right into the show. And tonight we have an amazing person who's going to talk about relationships, various aspects of relationship. And as we go through this, listen, if you have a question or a comment that you'd like to make, just put it in the chat, and somehow I'll just be able to jump in there. I'm hoping I'll be able to jump in there if we're at a good spot and just deal with it. Sometimes we're not able to do that, but I may have another show just where I deal with just questions alone. Okay, but enough of that. Listen, let's get right to our guest right now. I want to welcome our guest. Oh, look at her. Just look at her. Welcome. All right.
Thank you.
Most welcome. Listen, I thank you for just want to be on the show tonight. Listen, I hope we're not going to scare you off, okay?
Not at all. I don't scare easily.
Oh, you don't scare easily?
No, I don't.
I like that. So that means I can ask all the crazy questions I want to, right? If
Yes,
I get
you
a chance.
can. Yes, you can.
Listen,
Thank you so much for inviting me to the show, Dr. Kidd. I'm honored to just be here.
All right. Well, listen, just go ahead and just introduce yourself. Give us your name. Tell us whatever else you want to tell us about, and then we're going to get into this. About why relationships are so important. Okay, from various aspects. All right. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
So, my name is Sharron White, and I am born and raised in New York City. I think you're familiar with New York City, aren't you, Dr. Kidd?
No, listen,
bit,
I
right?
want to screw up that way. Listen. We don't need no New Yorkers on this. Ooh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Okay, go right ahead.
Well, I like I said, thank you so much for inviting me to the show. I'm happy to be here this evening, speaking to your viewers. And listen, you wanted to talk about caregiving and how your relationships are affected when you're in a caregiver role.
Right,
And
right, right.
I just want to say, listen, I'm a parental caregiver because I know that there are various definitions of caregivers, right? You can be a caregiver to a spouse, you can be a caregiver to a child, your child, you can be a caregiver to your parents, friends. So I know that it takes a lot of different shapes. So I just wanted to make the distinction tonight that I'm speaking from I'm caring from my parents' perspective. And listen, I'm not an expert. I don't know a lot. I know a little bit. I am just experienced with learning. So that's who I am. A caregiver that is not an expert, but I am experienced and still learning every day.
All right. Listen, I thank you for that, Sharon. But I'm going to tell you this.
Mm-hmm.
Don't downplay the fact that when you say you're not an expert, you may not be an expert across the board. But here is one thing I know. You are an expert at your experience because you didn't go to school to learn your experience. Your experience is just what you go through on a day by day basis. So you are indeed your expert on your life experience.
Ah, okay. Well, I'm gonna stick with that. And
You
I'm gonna
stick
go
with,
with that moving forward. It sounds great.
yes. So yeah, you are. Okay. So here you are then, um, caregiving. Now there are millions of people around this country who are caring for their parents, their aging parents. And we know that this can be there may be some difficulties in this, and the quality of the relationship between the caregiver and the quick care receiver does have a way of impacting the longevity of this relationship and the quality of the care of this relationship. All right, so from your experience about your taking care of your parents, and maybe one of the things you might want to talk about is, what brought you to this place? I mean, you could be out, you could be in Disney World, you could be driving around the world, you could be doing a whole lot of things. Put them somewhere. Like my kids, they threaten me and say, "We're just going to put you in a place named Shady Grove and just leave you there."
Oh my goodness. Heavens no.
you know, they mess with me like that. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, on a more serious note, what is it about you? And you remember now, I'm asking, what is it about you, not about your parents. We'll get to your parents in a little bit,
Right.
but let's start out at the center of this thing. What is it about you that made you say, I need to take care of my parents?
Well, I remember we talked a little bit about this last week. You asked me what was my motivation, and I've been giving that some thought. And, my caregiving, why me, or my caregiving, I guess, where did my empathy, where does that come from? I had to think back a little bit, and I remember I was a caregiver at 20 years old because I had a great aunt who was elderly, and she pretty much, raised me alongside my parents. But as she became, elderly and more infirmed as she got older, she lived alone, and her significant other had passed away, and she really needed someone to help her. And she um, developed some dementias and some levels of dementias, and it got progressively worse over time. And she lived out in Brooklyn, and I lived in Manhattan, and I would just take the train out there to see her on Saturdays. And, instead of hanging out and going to the movies with my friends, that's what I was doing some Saturdays and some weekdays, checking on her. I think my motivation and what brings me to do this thing is just a couple of things. I feel like they're my family, and who's going to do it if not me.
Right.
Of course, there's other family members who can help and pitch in, but I developed a connection with my aunt at such a young age, so we had already a bond, and I just could not see myself letting her just be in the house or in the home by herself. And so now, fast forward years later, as I'm more of an adult than I was at that point, I think it just came naturally to me that, okay, my parents are getting older and I've got to jump into this headspace, into this physical space again of being a caregiver. And I have amazing role models on both sides of my family who are, first cousins and aunts and uncles who've walked this path before me and shown me like how to do this or what to do in a sense, but a lot of it I picked up along the way on my own, once I got stepped into this role. But I just happened to see a lot of role models, great role models in my family who've done this path prior to me doing it for my parents, my mom and dad. And also just, it's kind of just was in me. It's just my natural, it was just a natural space for me and a natural impetus for me to do this, because I wouldn't be able to see myself, see them go deteriorate and I sit back and do other things and do, what I wanted to do. I wasn't raised in that fashion. I wasn't raised in that way. And so I think that's what my motivation is.
Okay, so what you're saying here is that, and remember, I just said that you are indeed your own expert,
Mm-hmm.
and so no one taught you this, but you see what I'm saying? No one taught you this, but you learned
Absolutely.
by looking at other people and people who were important to you. I mean, like at the age of 20, a great aunt. Now, so the question here is this, you can say, well, it was because of my great aunt. But remember what I said. I think whatever we do comes from the inside, the core of the soul. So there was something about you at the age of 20 that would make you want to do this. I mean, the age of 20, I mean, it's time for you to be out there, running with your friends
Oh,
and
I was out there. I was doing a little bit of that too, Dr. Kit. I think
wow.
I popped in and checked on my aunt in between being out there.
So you did. So okay, so maybe what I need to understand then is
Mm-hmm.
that taking care of someone else, being a caregiver to an elderly person, there are different degrees of investment depending
Yes.
on their capacity to be able to take care of themselves, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So for you, you were able to go in and out, and you were taking care of yourself at the same time. How was that? How was it, the transition from, I'm going to do it now, then I'm going to take care of myself later on, and then refuel, and come back and take care of myself. How did that work for you?
Are you talking about caregiving now?
Yeah, I'm not.
Okay, in the present?
Yeah, well, I just want to know. I'm going to
Oh,
get to the
period.
present. I just want to know what it was like for a 20-year-old.
Oh, you know, I think at 20 years old, I had, I had a lot of things ahead of me, and not as many woes and and heartaches. And I think still maturing in my space and just trying to figure life out. And I knew that I mean, I was in college at the time, and after college you develop a career and this and that. But I don't know. I knew my aunt since I was a baby, pretty much. And so the connection that I had with her just kind of followed me through into my 20s. And she did so many things for me and for us, my siblings and I, at a young age, that once I saw that she was not able to do that, I kind of switched. I really don't know if I could say, how was it, but it was just, I would say that if I were to answer your question more directly, I would just say back then I don't think I had as many responsibilities in life at 20 years old that I have right now, and so doing it back then was easier, and I was still maturing in a sense as well, as opposed to now. It's a lot more difficult, but yeah, I don't know what else I can say more than that.
you don't. And, we just saw, and I was telling you, I didn't get to read it all, but like somebody, let's put a comment on there. I'm hoping that we can get that comment back up because I want to thank this person for putting it up. Yo, okay, I'm gonna put it. You're not that far out.
She said I was
Yeah,
not that far out there.
maybe you need to come on one time and just talk about why you think she's not that far out because you're talking from your
I
own experience.
know.
you know so yeah at that time so let's come to the present time because
Okay.
one of the things that you said to that I thought was really good was the quality of the relationship that you had with your aunt. You knew her, she knew you all your life, and I bet she spoiled you as a great niece, and she did
She
all of that.
did.
And she did, didn't she?
Yes.
And so you know how they say it's payback. So you were paying back with all of this love and this attention
Yes.
because of how you felt. Now, what was that important to you? I mean, at the age of 20, for you to feel that kind of a attachment to an elderly person, or was it just with your aunt, or what?
You know, it was important to me to sort of like I'm paying it forward and paying this back to her, what she has given to me all my
Right.
life. I need to
Okay.
pay this back to her. I don't know if I felt like it was important to have an attachment to an elderly person. I just think that it was important for for me to give her reciprocity what she gave me.
Okay. So
Mhm.
and that's a good thing. There's no, I don't have a problem with that. So now let's move it forward
Mhm.
now to where we are. You're taking care of your parents.
Yes.
Mhm. How do you come to that decision? I mean, it's one thing to say, "Oh, this is what we do. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm supposed to do." But how do you come to that place, where you say, "This is what I want to do. I'm ready to do this, like right now." You're still a young person. You still got things you need to do, family stuff, personal stuff but it's taking a chunk of time out of your day just to be able to do that. So can you talk to us about that?
Sure. How did I come to doing that? Well, I think a large part of me, like I said, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, that I saw a lot of my family members on both sides, my father's side and on my mother's side, do this walk in those shoes of a caregiver. And so when it was my turn, I said, "Oh, it's my turn." I've already seen this blueprint before. So now I kind of know what I have to do or what I should be doing. Right. So in a sense, it was somewhat easy to kind of step into that role. Again, like with my great aunt, with my parents, I feel like they've given me so many things throughout life. And I would be remiss if I didn't pay that back to them or do what I could do for them in return if I'm able bodied and capable of doing it. It is definitely a hard walk. And the narrative with caregiving is like the narrative with caregiving is that it's such a difficult thing to do and that it's takes a lot out of you. And it's like when we see our cell phone batteries with the very last drip of battery,
Yes, yes.
you get to you're at that place a lot, and you're thinking to yourself, let me just get a little bit of sleep. And then when you wake up, the battery's still at the same place. It's still low, after you just slept for maybe 5 hours. So it's kind of like, what's going on here? Why isn't my battery full now after I've rested? Because a lot of it is not just physical, but it's a lot of mental, as you know, Dr. Kit, that is required to do this. And so, my motivation is I love both of my parents dearly. And I can't see them, you know, uh, go without me helping them. So much that they've done for me. There's so much they've done for me my whole entire life, and even as an adult, they still, do. And then also, I I feel that in terms of with my mom, when I see her, in her day to day, I just want to make both of my parents, not only my mom but my dad also. I want to make whatever time left they have on this earth. I want to make it as comfortable and have the highest quality as possible. And if I can, help with that in any way, shape, or form, I'm going to do that.
Okay. Oh, Robert. Edward was before. Oh, that's a good question, Dr. Ken. How often wonder that myself. I have taken care of many family members who was ill. My mom, my husband, an aunt who have passed away on. It was a labor of love, Robbie. Thank you for that. Would you consider that a labor of love? And it was Edward Barber saying, "That's right. Talk about it." And you're on point. We need to love our elders that that they did it for us.
Yes,
They
absolutely.
did the best they could. They're doing the very best they could. Thank you for those two comments. Beautiful. Listen, if you have more, let me get in this chat. You know what? I'm kind of I just want to be able to see if I can center myself here just a little bit. There you go. Yeah, Oh, and listen, things happen, and so I'm just setting this up. It's live. All kind of crazy stuff happens. Okay, let me just. There we go. All right, now. Okay.
That's my
Listen,
brother. That's my brother.
is it, brother?
My little brother, yes.
Hello, brother. Man, that's
Who's
how you
also
get
a
on here.
caregiver, by the way. It's I don't do it by myself, Dr. Francis. I know you might think that, I'm here, and I thank you so much for the intro that you gave me. Amazing. I appreciate that, from you, Dr. Kit. But amazing as it be, I don't do this without an army of people that, are there, by my side. Sometimes I can pick up the phone and call my brother. He might not answer, and I might not always get him, but there may be a friend of mine that I'm sure some of them are watching right now that I can call. I don't do this by myself at all, by no stretch of the imagination. So yeah.
I like that. I like that because it's speaking to when that battery was running low that you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about,
Mm-hmm.
because you realize that your battery can run low, and it might run low at an inopportune time when they might need more out of you than you have battery power to give.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, so what do you do then when your battery is starting to get low? And I think the answer might be in this army you have. So tell us about this army, people.
Oh, my army of people.
Yes.
I can't say enough about them. I mean, they come from every walk of life. Some I've known my whole life, some I've recently met, some, we've been friends since high school. It varies. And I mean, listen, sometimes I can't always get in touch with all of them at every time, but I definitely can get in touch with them all the time. So, um, I appreciate them, and I appreciate the fact that they allow me to just be me. And if one day I feel like crying and I can pick up the phone and cry, they let me cry. If I want to yell, they let me yell. If I want to pitch an idea to them, what do you think about this? They're good. They're great listeners, and I hope I'm the same for them as well. When they need me, I can be part of their army.
And I'm glad that you said that. So can you just take a moment and just validate others that are. I know we got more to do, but this army piece, it just grabbed me like right now to say, when you say I'm not in this by myself. So what would you tell at this moment? Review that. I cared for my mother for over 20 years. Although it was a challenge, it was also an honor. Blessings to you. I
Thank you for
thank
the
you
review
so
hour.
much.
Thank you for your comments.
Yeah.
My army.
Yes.
You would like for me to talk a little bit more about my army? Well,
Yeah,
I.
just to encourage people
Mhm.
that they don't have to do this by themselves. And so the best thing to do is to get an army, because I'm thinking the better you are, the better quality of service you deliver. All right, okay, so go
Yes,
ahead now. Go ahead.
absolutely. You mean here's the thing. My army consists of so many various types of people from different backgrounds. They're not just my siblings, they're not just my family members, they're not just cousins, aunts, my mother's siblings, my father's siblings. They are, people, teachers, my mentors from school. They are mentors from places where I've, in career and within my career path. They are several doctors such as yourself, or listen, when I go to my mother's cardiologist, I just say, "Hi, Mary," and she's like, "Hi, how's it going?" We know each other by first name. So all of her doctors are familiar with me. I consider them the army as well, because I can email them or call them at any point in time, and they help me, guide me as much as I possibly can, even down to the caregivers who help me with my mom, the aides, in the healthcare system. They are part of our army as well. And, it's, even my mom and dad are part of the army. They probably don't know it, but they are. They are. And
How are
so
they? How are they a part of your army? How can you
how are
explain
they?
that? Yeah.
Well, I'll speak about them individually. My mother is part of my army because, I kind of confer with her about things that need to happen for her. Some things
Okay.
I can run past her, and some things I just kind of make executive decisions about. My dad, he's part of an army. He's part of my army as well. He definitely, I like to always remind him that we're on the same team. I'm not
Hmm.
against you. We're on the same team. But within that army of my parents, there are struggles because they want to maintain their independence. And our goal, and when I say our, I mean myself and my siblings, our goal is to make sure that they have a great quality of life and that they're getting the best care that they need. So, when I say the word army, I mean well, but sometimes it's a battle, sometimes it's a struggle.
Yeah. When what happens when? Thank you, Ellen G. All right, thank you so much. What happens when you don't have an army of individuals and you're suffering burnout with caregiving? Have you ever been to that place where, because this is a really good question. It's a con-
Absolutely.
it's a contrast to you having an army to be able to supply you with energy, when you need that energy. But she's saying, well, listen, what happens when you don't have that? What do you do when you are getting depleted and they still have a great need for you to invest in them? You
Right.
understand what I'm saying?
Right. I think it's so important to latch on to even the thing that you may not, the thing that doesn't stand out the most. It may not be the brightest shiniest thing in the room, but that might be exactly what you need in that moment. It may be, the person at the nursing home who is walking down the hallway. Maybe you start talking to them, you want to share your story, or maybe you start talking to one of your parents' physicians, your caregiver, the caregivee. Maybe you start talking to one of your physicians. Ask questions all of the time. I always feel that if I need to know something, I'm always asking questions. And if this person doesn't know, they may know somebody who does know. And so that's always the case where there's a sixth degree of separation, right, Dr. Kit, where if you don't know something, you ask somebody. It may be the person that's at the front desk where you check in, to see your parents, and if they don't know, they might be able to point you in the direction where they do know someone who knows the answer to what you need. Get involved and jump online, try to get involved with a lot of support groups. And you have to have, this takes a different, you have to have a type of personality, Dr. Kit, where you are extrovert and an introvert, because sometimes you need to have an extroverted personality where it allows you to reach out to people that you don't know and network with people that you don't already know. Try to jump into support groups or talk to people that you don't know them. And so I'll give you an example. When my mom was in a rehabilitation facility, and I walked to, it was on a campus, and I walked to the other campus to try to find out what resources they had for her. A man was in the parking lot, and he said to me, do you have a parent here? And I said, yes, I do. And he was like, well, you know that, you know, you know about financially, you have to spend down all of their savings before Medicare starts to help you, right? And I was like, yes, I actually did know that. And we just started talking in the parking lot. So he has some wealth of information, I'm sure, that he could impart on me. So you just have to trust that if you don't have your immediate army of people that you already know, that people are going to gravitate to you, and you're going to gravitate towards the right people that you need in your life to help you along this transition and along the way.
Listen, okay. Oh man, thank you.
Thank
You
you, Avery, Tegan, Najee, and Trinity.
you know those folks. Huh?
Yes, I do.
Part of your army of
Part of my
support.
army. Yes.
Listen, oh that is
Listen, my
so.
5-year-old niece and 7-year-old nephew and 8-year-old niece and my 23-year-old niece, they are lights of my life, and they make me smile a lot of days when I'm like wanting to cry, and I have my nephew Avery. He helps refill the paper towel roll. He just does a little part, and that's so helpful to me because like I said, depleted. My energy is depleted, and he wants to help, so I let him help. And I'm like, can you just refill the paper towels for Auntie? And he says, okay. So yeah, every little bit
You,
helps me.
you know, as I broaden this thing about caregiving, it's almost like you just helped me to see something another way. That caregiving or helping somebody else to do something, okay, is not necessarily waiting until people are totally dependent. But if you're training your nieces and your nephews to help you, they are already in a caregiving role, because as much as they can help you, they are just doing like what you are doing for your parents now. So they don't have to wait until the necessity is upon them for them to
Right.
do that, right?
Right.
I think. And so,
Absolutely.
so, so
I
you're
agree.
really training your kid. So isn't that something that more people can invest in instead of waiting until it's necessary? And I like what you said when you said, listen, my mom is a part of my army and my dad. Now I had to sit back when you said that, because I'm thinking, how can they be a part of your army when you're here to help them? So can you clarify that for us,
Well,
please?
I have to, when you have elderly parents that, kind of fight you along the way about everything that needs to happen, and you have to kind of maybe do some things behind their back to, it's for the greater good, right? But, they are part of the army because this is for them. And like I told my father a couple of weeks ago, I said, well, Dad, if you don't want me to help you, can you help me help you?
Oh,
I had to come up with a way to spin the conversation, so that he was more receptive to it. Help me to help you, because sometimes I don't always feel like coming over here. I don't always feel like preparing meals for you. Can you help me help you? And he was thinking about it. I think he was receptive to that. So that, in that sense, they are part of my army, because when my mom, who lives alone, I'm calling to check on her, I need her to answer the phone. I need you to be alert to answer the phone when you hear us calling, because we need to check up on you. So in that way, she's part of the work that's being done as well. Because this doesn't happen smoothly without the parents. So um, I have to let them think that they are involved as well, right? Because
yeah,
they don't want to
yeah,
be stripped of their independence
yeah.
completely. So I have to let them. So it's a little Jedi mind trick, right?
No, no, not see, but I like that. I like that, because when you ask them, what would you like to do? They know what they're feeling. They know what they want. They know what they don't want. They know what they don't want to feel. So when you keep them in the loop with that, it's I guess they're probably thinking that they are not just somebody who is who has been discarded, and so somebody's coming in, that they have a vested interest in who they are as long as they can contribute to their own well-being. See, now I
Right.
like that. And you got a good way, you got a really good way of of, uh,
Well,
of
listen,
doing that.
I part of my army taught me a few things of how to approach my parents in an indirect way, but directly. Part of my army taught me that, and listen, I have conversations with my friends who have had parents. Some of them are still living. Some of them have passed away already, unfortunately. But we we communicate and we bounce things off of each other. Of maybe you should handle it like this, or maybe you should talk to about it like that. And I appreciate all of my friends that I communicate with them about that, and they get me to think about things in different perspective. Even my siblings do that as well,
Yeah.
and
So
my family members.
yeah, great generational, instruction, incorporating the young children in the care of the elderly. Yes, I listen, Ellen G. Listen. I could not agree with you more, because that is so good. If you begin to teach them from they are young, and what will happen here is, because what I think is probably a key piece in all of this. Okay, it is the quality of the relationship that you grow over
Hmm.
a period of time.
Yes.
See, my wife, she likes to garden. So she put these little saplings in. And when she tills the ground and she talks she's out there talking to the plants. So I think she's crazy sometimes. But hey, listen, I'm married to her. But she's out there doing all this wonderful stuff. And the more, the better foundation she gives the plants to grow and thrive in, the better produce she'll get. So the better emotional soil that you prepare for these young children, the
Right.
better they will be when they get to be older. It will become so natural that I've been doing this all my life, like you said with
Yes, that's right. That's what happened with me, right?
yeah,
So I
yeah,
spin it around and bring it
yeah.
to the present day to try to train, my nieces and nephews, from young. So this way, listen, when I'm in my 80s, that I can call them up and ask them to do something for me. Maybe they'll do it. Maybe they'll be able to help Auntie.
Yeah, so here's another one. Shanti, I hope
Thank
I'm saying this
you.
right.
Thank you.
So
Thank you,
proud of
brother.
so proud of you. Wow. Listen, you see how many people you have just really pouring back into you and saying, listen, you're doing a really, really good job. Now, taking care of the elderly, not only is it time consuming and that, but there has got to be a piece of yourself. You're really giving a piece of yourself. It's not money, it's not clothes, it's not time, although it takes time to do that, but it's giving that piece of yourself. So the question here, that is kind of a crazy question: if you were not taking care of your parents who you love, what would happen to the part of you that would watch them suffer?
What would happen to me is what would
What
happen to the
yeah,
part of me that
yeah,
watches them
yeah,
suffer.
yeah. If you were
Hmm.
not doing this, if you were not doing this to them, and you know that my mom's not answering the phone, my dad is not doing it, what would be going on with you at that time when you want to make contact with them? What would be going on with you when you're in that kind of a valley of uncertainty? I mean,
Oh, that's where this part kicks in, Dr. Kit, where the anxiety, starts to increase, and
yeah,
the fear starts to increase, because you definitely, as a caregiver, experience a range of emotions of fear, of anxiety about what is going on when you're not present, or when you can't be there, or when you take a day off or something like that. Um, and I think that those kinds of, emotions and spaces start to formulate when you're not in that caregiving space.
okay, but listen, caregiving is not always sweet and
No.
great. What do you do not necessarily like you say, but if you can talk about what it would be like for you from the experience of to be able to deal with somebody who is kind of a combative, who don't want to give up or think they're giving up a piece of their own independence and they want to keep that, but it's to their own ill though. How do you deal with, I don't know if you've had that with your parents or not. You don't have to
Mm.
say, but in this world of caregiving, what happens then? What do you do? What's a good strategy to use?
I have experienced that. I have to say, I may not have experienced it to the level of as some people who are caregiving, because I do know probably in your audience there are people whose parents deal with Alzheimer's and certain dementias where they are enraged. So with the caregivee, the person who's ill becomes enraged, and then there are different levels where there isn't, that feeling of, lashing out, or the patient being enraged, and that can be very difficult to deal with. I think that I've been blessed in a sense that I have not dealt with it to that level, but I still deal with a lot of um, you know resistance from my parents on a lot of things that they're like, no, well, I do know that when I first started kind of transitioning on taking over a lot of things for my mom, she was like, well, couldn't you ask me what I wanted to do first? And I'm just kind of trying to make decisions very quickly for her on her behalf. But I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm going to talk to you about it later when we get home. I can't get into it right now, what we're doing. Same thing, in terms of with my father, he can be resistant at times to some things to change, more importantly. And so how I deal with it is just take some deep breaths. I have to, before I leave home, I have to kind of just pray for a lot of patience, because that's what it requires. And then just try to understand that if they're upset or resistant about something, it's not personal. It's not me. It's
Mm,
and it's not even them. It's what they're going through. It's their
mm,
illness that is the factor of them being so resistant or so combative to whatever has to happen. And it took me a long time to kind of deal with that, or to try to understand that it's not them, it's their illness that's making them so combative and so resistant to whatever it is that you want them to do. So I just try to use tough love. Do you believe in that, Dr. Kit? Tough love? And you're
mm.
like, listen, this is what we're doing, and there's no
Listen,
variation.
that's,
I know
that's
you
that's
don't
the way I
like
raise
it.
my kids.
You'll like it. Yeah, you'll like it. Ultimately, you'll like it.
Yeah.
But right now, this is what we have to do. And so that's how it has been with my parents. They ultimately don't like it in the moment. I do it anyway because I know this is the best thing for them, and they come around to, oh, this wasn't so bad after all. So yeah, it is learned
Oh,
behavior,
okay.
Sarian. Thank you, 1922.
Yeah,
It is definitely learned behavior.
yes, we appreciate that. Yeah, it is a learning. I had my grandparents as a child and young adult. Ooh, that one dropped off real quick. Oh, okay. Maybe we'll get it back up there.
Right.
you know. But yeah, all of this is so I'm thinking here that taking care of the elderly, it's not just the amount of time. It is the quality of the time that you put in to all of this. And so we're talking here about your experience as you've been talking to other people, and as you probably read the literature. Has there been, you've heard of elder abuse?
Yes. Yes, I
We've
have.
heard, we've all heard of elder abuse, right?
Yes. It's a very real thing, unfortunately.
Yeah, this is very recent. Let me get this at the review. My mom was in a nursing home facility. However, I still had to administer care to her due to some negligence done at the facility that were challenging. Challenges came forth. Isn't that amazing? That this statement here basically. Thank you for that so much, review the review hour, because I was just about to ask our guest um, about elder abuse. And so you're talking about a level of elder abuse there in the what you just put in the chat, a level of elder abuse, and these things happen, and and sometimes depending on their capacity to communicate to you, especially like in the facility. And I'm not coming down on facility, but you know these things do happen. Like the last post just said, you know, if they cannot communicate to you, then there might be times when you don't see the abuse or the neglect. And so you know, I guess, how do you then become so visual or so in tuned with the person to say this person is not acting like they would? Of course, you don't have that at the home, but even if you do have it at the house, when you're going to see your mom or your dad, can you kind of tap into, you know, mom is acting this way, she don't normally do this, or dad is acting this way, don't normally do this? How do
Mhm.
you catch those things?
Oh, definitely. It's important to be a caregiver to have foresight
Yeah.
and also to be very acute, you know, to the person that you're giving care to, and also have self awareness. And if you possess some of those, those three things as a starting point, that gives you kind of a foundation to be able to know when sense when things are off or when something is not right, or if your parent can't communicate that to you, you're able to just sense that something is going on, or something doesn't look the way that it normally should look, or she feels warm, or he's not acting the same way that he normally should act. And so maybe there's something wrong here. I have a situation where my mom was in a rehabilitation facility, and I definitely had to experience a lot of that, where I had to sense that something wasn't right when I wasn't there, or
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that we kept an eye on her because she was in a new environment, and because it was, so many things going on that were all new. You kind of have to kind of piggyback on your siblings and kind of take shifts, and always be her eyes and ears each time. And so I just had a feeling, how you've heard some people say that they have a feeling, they have a feeling that something wasn't right. I had a feeling that something wasn't right with her, and it wasn't. And so then you have to go up to the chain of command with all the people that operate in this facility to make sure that your parent is getting what they should have, and getting what they need. So it unfortunately, Dr. Francis, you said it best a few seconds ago. It's not a pretty, it's not always a pretty picture,
Mm-hmm.
caregiving. And it takes a lot of patience, and it requires a lot of, let me think this through before I say what I'm about to say to this person. And it sometimes requires you to have to get different people in line, to make sure that your parent has what they need. So you don't always ever want to get to that place where you're you know calling for the supervisor of the nurse who didn't do something for your mother or for your parent. But what do how can you not, you certainly can't sit back and just let these things take place. Or if she's taking cold showers, and when I get there she's telling me, well, I took a cold shower today. Well, now I have to go to the supervisor, which I don't want to be in her office. But why is it every time I come here I have to be in the supervisor's office all the time? Today my mom said she's taking cold showers, and that the nurse was rough with her. So what is that about, So it requires a lot of foresight. It requires a lot of being acute, staying on top of everything, keeping up with all of their belongings when they're at these facilities, making sure that you know who the managers are for the area where your parent is. And definitely say something. We have a saying here in New York City: if you see something, say something. I know it's kind of trite, but it's actually very true.
Okay, well, I like that, but it seems. Listen, for those of you who just joined after our guest introduced herself, This is Sharron. She is a wealth of knowledge. She's a caregiver to her parents, and she's doing a wonderful job. She's from the Big Apple, so don't mess with her. Listen. She got a whole tribe of people, East
That's
Coast, West
right.
Coast. That was you kind of just come after you. So just be nice to her, okay? But listen, Sean. I'm going to be closing it down in just a minute. I got just a couple of questions for you though.
Yes.
And well, one is a kind of statement, then the question. It seemed to me though, and you can respond to this. It seemed to me that the level of caregiving that I'm getting, that you're giving to your parents, it's not just a behavior, it's like a sharing of the self with it's almost like you've adopted this whole idea that they're bone of your bone, skin of your skin. And so you're really taking care of yourself by taking care of your parents, and you're sharing. Did I get that right?
That's amazing the way you put that. I mean, the way that you phrase that, it is so accurate.
Yeah.
I do feel like, when I open my eyes in the morning, the first thing that comes to my mind, I have to call my mom. I have to call my dad, did they do this, and go down the list with them, and it is definitely like, they're one of my ribs, I'm sharing, my dad has one of my arms and I have the other one, and I'm taking care of myself. And, I never thought about it quite in that way, but that is you put it so eloquently. And I do agree with you that, I'm definitely taking care of myself. And when I started to come to this podcast, I wanted to kind of to change the narrative about caregiving, mm-hmm. and trying to figure out how I could do that. But you just sort of helped me do that, where I have to think about it in the perspective of I'm taking care of myself. I'm not like, begrudgingly going to take care of my parent today, or begrudgingly doing this. I'm taking care. It's self-care. So that's amazing how you put that. Thank you.
All right, and one last one. I know you got your own family, so and it takes a lot of time, for you to invest. Here listen, it takes a lot of time for you to invest in the other parts of yourself that live outside of yourself. That's your parents. They are the other part of you that lives outside of you. But then you have another set of people who are another party that live outside of you. How does that work?
Dr. Francis, you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, I would love to have more pieces of myself to spread around to all of the rest of my family and to my friends. But sometimes I'm just very depleted. And you're right. I can be at my mother's house from 8 a.m. and I don't walk in my own house until 9 p.m. And then there's nothing really left. I'm trying to put the pieces of myself together just to have something for me. And I may not call somebody. Listen, Dr. Francis, you hit the nail on the head so much. I have missed so many friends' birthdays in this calendar year. I feel so horrible about, because I have never missed their birthdays ever. And they probably were like, what's going on with Sharron? She missed my birthday, but it's that, I don't have it left. I don't have anything left, and I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm still a work in progress. That's why I said at the top of our hour that, I felt like I'm not an expert, but you said I am. So I'm an expert, but I am experienced, and I'm still learning. And I'm still learning how to balance my own life, my personal life, my life with my friends, and my life with my family, and things that I want to do with how to, care for my parents. And they get the huge bulk of my time and my mind space. It's not just my physical time, me walking or me being at their house. It's the space up here, that they get a lot of that time. And though I may not have, they have this much, and my friends might get like this much, like a little piece.
Right.
I'm trying to find the balance.
Yeah.
It's a work in progress.
One of the things, you know this as well as I do, the presentation of something, it's only this much time. It's the preparation. So it's how you prepare yourself. You say, roll out of bed, it's 8 a.m. I'm I'm on the job, my mom's, and stuff like that, and I think that is so commendable, that is so selfless, but it is selfish. It's selfless in that you're thinking about them, but it's selfish in that their well-being is your well-being. So you're doing this out of self-interest.
Right, because when I make sure that my mom has eaten, I feel a lot better. Or I make sure that my dad has eaten, and or they are taking their medications, or we went to the doctor's appointment and everything. They tell
Yeah.
us what we need to do moving forward. Okay, I can check that off the list. But when that's not happening and I'm out of the loop, and it's kind of like I feel very incomplete and very like trying to figure out, okay, well, what is going on, or what is it that I didn't do, or and there is a large part of preparation that you have to do to get to the point where you are at the helping space, physically standing there with them and
Yeah,
helping.
yeah, yeah,
And there's a lot of times that I want to do a lot of other things, do other things with my friends, or do other things, travel or whatever, and I have to kind of make those sacrifices in a way to make sure that they're great first. And now maybe I can go, travel, or hang out with my friends, or talk on the phone to someone else, have some other interaction with someone else that's maybe more of my peer, because your relationship with your parent changes as they become elderly. Like my mom and I don't talk as much as we used to. The exchange of information and conversation is not as fluid as it used to be. And that's to no fault of her own. I don't blame it on her. It's just, uh, a it's just a end result of a greater thing that's going on with her. So, I now understand that when I go to her house and I'm there all day, I may have to call up one of my friends, and they may hear me doing things, banging pots or whatever in the background, but please stick with me. I need to talk to somebody while I'm doing this. Sometimes my
yeah,
friends like, call me back, it's noisy or whatever.
yeah.
I need to talk to you because I'm doing this, and I need, maybe just to stay sane for those few minutes while we're on the phone.
Right. So, in other words, what I think I hear you saying here and say this to the viewers too, is that while you are giving into your parents, you need some people to refuel you so that you
Yes,
can be,
yes,
yeah, refuel you so that you can
yes,
have not just enough for your parents, because you cannot give your parents more than you have for yourself. So you need
right,
a good octane, like you put in your car, right? So that
yes,
you can
yes.
be running and do all of this, and then they wonder, how does Sharron do this? It's because you have this network of people, and people continue pouring into Sharron. She's doing an amazing job. And listen, I know that there are plenty of you out there who are probably doing something similar to that. Okay, Sharron, we're going to wrap it up. Give us your last. Okay, during the early stage of the pandemic, I took over all my aspects of my mom's outside movement and visitation from my sibling. How do I relax and allow them to visit, or her to go visit them? Can you answer that? It's from
Oh,
Tracy. Oh, they got a good one on
yes,
you now.
Tracy, great question. Thank
Yes,
you for your question,
yeah.
Tracy. I experienced a little bit of that myself, and you have to make sure that the elder is safe. That's basically what it is. And I think
Nice word.
one of the ways to relax it, Tracy, is to just, reach out to them individually if you can, and just say, thanks so much for taking the time to, be patient with me, or be patient with the fact that you haven't been able to see said person. I was trying to make sure that she was safe throughout the pandemic. Hopefully you can understand that. But now that things have opened up, I would love it, and she or he would love it if you would come see them. Make sure that you come and that you're safe, or if you're requiring them to wear a mask, let them know that you would love if they could still wear a mask, or if they have been COVID tested, you definitely let them know that what your requirements are. But that uh, the ultimate goal is that the person who is the elder gets to spend the time with the individuals that they couldn't spend the time with before. So just have a very frank conversation with them, and let them know where you were at that point in time and where you are now, that you both would love to see them. And I think that if they are loving and are empathetic, they would be appreciative of how you kept that person safe and how much they're wanted in your life at this time.
Thank you for that. Oh, beautiful question. Great answer.
Thank
One
you.
word. Listen to this word. Trust is a factor.
Absolutely.
Trust is a factor
Yes.
because they just basically free floating a lot of times, and they just depend on you to take care of them so much that they can just say, even though I can't see how she's preparing the food, what she's doing, all this kind of stuff, yet I trust her. And that's kind of a bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. Even if you're not really biologically related, but you can adopt that whole sense of, I'm not just doing this, I am really sharing myself with somebody else. So this trust is a factor. And the other thing that I'm going to ask you, how about when you're dealing with the elderly, so they don't get bored? Is it okay to play games with them or do whatever it is, crossword or whatever is it? Is that a good way to spend
Oh,
some time with them?
absolutely. I mean, I bought a Scrabble for my mom, and gosh, I try to get her, engaged in
Yeah,
play. And the main reason that I purchased the Scrabble game board game was to get her to constantly be recognizing, words and speaking them, vocalizing them, because you just don't want the mind to deteriorate to the point where they're not recognizing words and sounds and letters and things like that. Also, we always grab crossword puzzles for her, like word finder puzzle books for her, so she can find the words while she's at home sitting down. For my dad, he's very active and he's always, out and about and on the go, but definitely incorporate games, try to get other kids interactive. My nieces and nephews, they are always coloring and drawing pictures and giving them to her. So we try to definitely do as many interactive things with our parents as we possibly can, and to get them and encourage them to keep their mind sharp at this stage of life, so that they can recall how to communicate with us.
okay,
So that's
wonderful.
definitely a good idea for everybody out there to definitely try to incorporate different board games, different games, the simple things, not anything too complex, because
Right.
then it gets to be difficult. It might become frustrating for you and for the patient.
Yeah. And so last thing, and then we'll close it down. I thank you. But I'm just thinking that if they can walk, take them outside and let them
Yes,
do a little bit of walking. If they are in a wheelchair, take them outside and just push them around a little bit so that they
yes.
can breathe some fresh air. They think, man, if this person wasn't here, I would be stuck in the house. And they look forward to you coming just to take care of, just to spend some time with you. I'm not going to say take care. They just want to spend some time with you.
Absolutely. I agree with that, Dr. Francis. I always think when I go to my mother's house, I want to take her outside when the day
Yeah.
when it's not too hot. But I am busy from the moment I step in the door to the moment it's time to leave. And sometimes I really have to be more cognizant to let me input that time into the day. If it's 2 hours, let me put that into the day so that I can be more cognizant to actually go outside and take her out for those walks, because sometimes the hours go by so fast, and I'm
Yeah.
cooking and cleaning and doing this and doing that and filling in medications and calling doctors and all those things. And so the time goes by. And then sometimes I want to take her out for a walk, or I want her to go. And she's like, no, I don't feel like it today. And it's an argument. And so to avoid that, I just kind of say, okay, well, maybe another day when you're feeling up to it.
Nice.
So
Nice.
but
Nice. I like that.
I try to encourage her to say, listen, I need for you to go out and walk. Remember, the cardiologist said you have to go out and walk. Thank you, Valerie,
Valerie,
so
yeah,
much.
Valerie, yes. Okay, Brian Davis, thank you
Thank
for
you,
the
Brian.
enlightenment. Tracy,
Thank you,
yes,
Tracy,
thank
so
you.
much.
Oh, Larry White. Oh, come
Oh, Black Queen.
back.
Okay. Thank you, Larry.
Oh, want to
This
be
has
the
been
head of
great,
our
Doctor.
village. Okay.
This has been great, Dr. Kidd. I'm so glad that you invited me here to speak
Yeah.
today. I hope that I was, helpful to a lot of your viewers, and hopefully that we can pick up this conversation again because there's so many other facets of caregiving that we haven't talked
Oh,
about, like Medicare, like healthcare, the healthcare system. We touched a little bit on COVID, how that has affected it, but there are a lot of other areas of caregiving that we haven't talked about. There's the relationship with your siblings and relationship with your spouse. How does caregiving affect those relationships,
yes.
right?
See there, right. See there now. See there now. I'm glad you opened that piece up because I was going to talk to you about that. Very
Mm-hmm.
informative. Thank you.
Thank you, Kwania.
Okay. But listen, now that you've opened that up, and
Yes.
and the listeners want to hear. Listeners, they want to hear. Please, when we're going to let you know when Sharron's coming back ahead of time, so you can tell everybody because she says she is not an expert. But listen to the way you just walk your way through this stuff here tonight, and then you think there's so many other areas in this. I've been to school tonight, and I
Thank you so much.
thank you so much, Sharron. Listen. I thank you so much for being on, sharing your time with us here. Okay, and yeah,
Absolutely.
we're gonna get in touch with you, and we will have you back. Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay,
Thank
thank
you
you
so
so much.
much, Dr. Kidd. I appreciate this. I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for having me on. And good
You're
night to
most
everybody.
welcome. All right, all right, all right. Listen, folks, I don't know about you, but this was an amazing time with Sharron. She is so, she was so calm and so cool. Looked like she knew what she was talking about. And she did. She did. Of course, she knew what she was talking about. She did an amazing job. Very, very good job. And so if you would like, you know, but just if you'd like more people to be a part of this, to listen, just like, share, subscribe, and if you would like to be a part of the show, to be considered for the show, just get in touch with my team at email drkitspeaks@gmail.com. drkitspeaks@gmail.com. See, it's not intimidating. It is just so easy. It is like your show, and I'm just sitting back watching you do and say whatever you want to say. It's nice. It's really so good. Very, very stress free, and you are always the expert at what you bring to present. There is not going to be, well, no, you're crazy. No, no, that's not what the research said. No, 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 no. You are always going to be the expert. I'm just engaging you and, for this moment, and I'm enjoying myself more than you're enjoying yourself. So listen, I just want to thank you so much for being on the shake up and all right with us. And listen, on September 24th, all right, there's going to be a refueling your relationship. It's called Rest Stop. It's down there in Atlanta. It's for married couples, engaged, seriously dating, and even some singles if you want to come and understand more about yourself in the relationship and the relationship. Okay, it's yourself in the relationship and the relationship. All right. If you want to do that, please please check us out here. You can see the information right here on line. All right. It's right there for you. And again, you can always, if you need more info, you can go to drkitspeaks.com or you can check me out on Instagram. Okay, go to Instagram. You can get some of the information there too. All right, Mercedes says, sign behind you. The fear of failure is the enemy of success. Don't think you can't do it. This show will make you feel you can do it so you don't have to fall prey to the fear of failure. Looking forward to seeing you. Thank all of you that were online. Sharron feels great, and I feel good for having her on, and I feel great that you were. So share it and make sure that you get some more people just coming on here every week. But also, we want to see you as being in front of the microphone, talking to us, talking to the world. Okay. Thank you so much. Be good. Until next Monday at 6 p.m., where we have the Shake Up again with Dr. Kit. Hope one of y'all will be on the Shake Up with me. All right. Thanks much. Bye-bye.